Hello, I'm Liam Turner, the digital editor at CIH. As part of the 2026 vice presidential election, I've been speaking with the hopeful candidates to find out a bit more about them, their background, and why they want to become the next vice president and ultimately president of CIH. In this video, I sit down with Gavin Smith, a CIH fellow who currently serves as a service manager at Fife Council. CIH's Scotland members will know Gavin from his tenure as chair of the CIH Scotland board. But as you'll see in our conversation, Gavin is acutely tuned to the housing challenges that are shared beyond and across borders, as well as the important role a dedicated and educated profession can play in tackling these issues. Here's what Gavin had to say. Okay, if you could just start then, Gavin, by telling us a little bit about your journey into housing and what first inspired you to work in the sector.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that I didn't find housing. Housing found me. I went through my secondary school education, determined I was going to be a police officer, and that didn't quite happen. Left too old for cadets and too young to join mainstream. Decided I wasn't going into higher education, although I had the qualifications for it. Decided I wanted to work. One disastrous modern apprentice placement didn't work, and I ended up in Glenrothes Development Corporation as it was winding up. Day one on the front line of the housing counter. I just found that that was my vocation. I've met some inspirational people. Since then, I started my SVQ level 4 fairly quickly at that point, and that just taught me what the world was all about. Moved through SVQ to postgraduate diploma to MSc, moved different opportunities. So I can't claim to have formed a career in housing. It definitely found me, but once hooked, I've stayed, and it's definitely become a career for me.
Yeah, and as you say, you've kind of pretty much your whole career has been in housing. What would you say has been the proudest moment of your career so far?
And that's difficult to pick. We're looking through 30 odd years of housing. I like to think that I've changed the shape of housing, not just at a local level, but certainly working at national level as well. So it's difficult to pick out one particular achievement, but looking at some of the partnerships I've created, still surviving and thriving 20 years on, as an achievement. I think personally, I've been on the CIH Scotland board twice,
Mhm.
as a proud moment for me. I think the first time I wasn't quite ready, but to rejoin at a later date and to eventually become chair, a very proud moment for me. Honoured and privileged was a word I used quite a lot during those days, and to be invited onto stage and have the national director say some very kind words about you at the national awards last year was another proud moment. I believe housing. I work in a large local authority, but I took the decision to join a local community-based housing association on the board. Again, becoming chair there, that is operational in the area that I live, and I think that was really important to me.
Mhm.
So some of the things that we did in that environment, really, really important. And probably equally proud that after standing down from that after 2 years, my son has joined that very same housing association
Yeah.
and has chosen a career in housing as well. And that association are training him to be and follow in my footsteps. So all proud moments for me. But I'm particularly proud of the people that I work with. I wouldn't have done what I've done without them supporting me or leading me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you mentioned about a bit there about the kind of involvement you've had with CIH over the years. I guess namely serving as chair of the CIH Scotland board. So I just wondered, what does CIH mean to you?
I've never thought twice about renewing my CIH membership. CIH has changed over those years. I won't mind admitting there's been some times where I thought I'm not quite sure I identify with it anymore, but I'm really keen to be part of a member-focused body, and I think that's a real priority now. I see professionalism as a bit of an identity. I think as a
Mhm.
credibility, it gives me a lot of sense of confidence, if nothing else, in the partnerships that I work with and in the people that I work with. I'm really delighted that Fife Council is a partner of CIH, and that's created through the training academy, creating further young and more mature housing professionals. I'm not sure I'd have the same commitment to continuing professional development or to attending events, but being part of that network of people, not just in Scotland but across the country, that you can go to for advice, for support, and to learn best practice. So whenever something's happening, budgets, legislation change, I think CIH is the class leader for its policy and lobbying work. So it's always the first place that I would go and places that I would refer people to. In terms of my experience on the board, we laid out a bit of work with the policy manager in the Chartered Institute on homelessness
Mhm.
and housing options. And that was really good and really powerful to be part of. So I think the CIH role in getting that message across, making sure best practices is in the public domain and making sure there's a common message is really, really important. So really see it as a kind of community, a community with purpose. It's about working with aims and really working to support vulnerable and to innovate for improvement across the housing sector based in professionalism.
Yeah. And as we're all too well aware, there are a number of kind of issues at the minute that the housing sector is kind of grappling with. So I just wondered, what one issue at the minute that do you think isn't getting enough attention, or perhaps as much attention as it should be?
I think the people that know me would expect me to say something in homelessness terms,
Mm,
and the range of issues around homelessness. And there definitely is a lot to talk about in there. It tends to be the negative side of children in temporary accommodation or deaths in temporary accommodation. But I don't think that is the big issue. I think
mm,
since the pandemic, people have become really acutely aware of what the importance of home, not just house, is. And that gave us a little bit of a platform. So I think the issue is across the country, we're seeing supply targets not being met and not likely to be met. So I think the big issue at the moment is really how the finance and subsidy system could be overhauled to really get to a place where we've got a functional housing system across the piece. I would want that to be led by social housing where landlords are got an accountability and a direct accountability to their customer group,
mhm,
tenants and other customers. And I suppose the homelessness connection is that we all see the negative side of homelessness. We see rough sleeping and we see some of the issues that we've talked about. But my experience is the vast majority of people approaching homelessness services, particularly local authorities, are not at that complex end of the scale. It's simply people who require housing.
mhm,
80% of the people that present to Fife Council don't present with long-term enduring rough sleeping, even significant support issues. They simply need a house somewhere to move to. So addressing the housing and supply issue is addressing the homelessness issue in my mind.
yeah,
So I think the key thing for me is that kind of investment and affordability debate. But the wonderful thing about housing is there are plenty of other people that would disagree with me. They would talk about the climate emergency and net
mm,
zero. They would talk about that real challenge between development and
mm,
investment in existing housing. They would talk about smart technology. They would talk about AI. So I think it's a very interesting area. I think you
yeah,
could give one thing. The basic issue for me is we are in the middle of a perfect storm. Housing issues are not high enough up the priority list, and I think it is the job of CIH to make sure that they are. I think it want to be a trusted partner of government, but also one that's there to challenge that as well.
yeah. You touched on kind of CIH again there, and we talked earlier about kind of what CIH means to you. The final question I've got for you is just wondered why have you decided to stand for the CIH vice presidency at this time? Why now?
Okay, I think I was probably overwhelmed by the people that got in touch with me to say this is something that I think you should do. You've got a very credible story. You can inspire people to be um, members and contribute members to the institute. I think for me, and part of my kind of frustration with on the Scotland board was young members joining but not staying with the
Mm,
institute. So I
okay.
think there's something that we can do to help people to sustain, to build our future workforce and to build our future leaders
Mm,
in the housing service. I'm lucky enough to come from a generation that had some really inspirational figures, and it's my aspiration to be one of those for the future generation. I think for me, as I said, we've talked about housing in the media. It tends to be the negative side when
yeah.
things haven't worked well,
Yeah.
either for safety or condition issues. But I think there's a lot of hugely influential, beneficial work that goes on across the sector that we're just not getting into the public domain. So the role of kind of vice president and potentially and president going forward, I think I would see it as my job to really promote that as a contribution that housing professionals and the housing sector make to building good, strong communities, to building positive relationships into helping people be the best that they can be in the homes that they live in.
Yeah. And as I said, that was the last question I had for you, but I just wondered if you had any kind of final thoughts you wanted to leave people watching with.
Yeah, no, I think I'm hopefully bringing a professional knowledge, 30 years of experience. That's not just in a relatively large local authority, but it's coming with community-based experience. There's a lot in there. My fellowship is an indication of my commitment to the profession, and to continue to want to do better and want others to do better as part of that. I think it's a vital time for housing. In Scotland, we have a housing emergency declared nationally
Yeah.
and in Fife
Yeah.
locally. That's not the case across the piece, but my
Mm.
role in that housing emergency at a local level and national level has brought a lot of experience which I could bring to the role. So I think it's just my passion for supporting vulnerable people, working with diverse communities, and wanting to be the CIH and CIH members to be the best that they possibly can that I would want to leave people with.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks very much, Gavin, and best of luck with your campaign.
Thank you.